Well, no, I went too far. So we need to first call the meeting to order.
I need to request a motion. I know I'm going to get it at some point, I promise. Motion to open the meeting.
Yep. Does anybody want to second that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay. So the meeting for the Recreation Commission for January 5th is open. Just a reminder that this is being recorded on Zoom so that we can have that to fall back onto and to be filed with the town clerk's office. The first motion of business is the appointment of a chair for the Recreation Commission. We had previously appointed Casey as the interim chair through December 31st. So her and I have had some conversations about her continuing. She seems to be interested, but we would need to see if anybody else would be interested in that, serving that role at this time. And then from there, if, we would either have discussion or we would go to a vote with a motion to appoint an individual as a chair. So would anybody else be interested, Paul or Jen? Any other interest at this time?
Ryan, do you want to just do a chair for this meeting and then have the longer term chair position voted on when we have the rest of our members?
It probably makes sense. I think that's a good, that's probably a better approach. So if we can appoint a interim chair again for this meeting, so Jen or Paul, we would need you to make a motion to appoint Casey as the interim chair for the meeting of January 5th. Jen, you're on mute.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to appoint Casey for the interim chair.
Paul, you would need a second. Did he disappear on us?
Yeah, it looks like he's gone. Give him a second. I bet he'll be right back.
Can I second my own motion?
No. All right, let's hope we get Paul back.
We don't have a quorum without him, do we?
No.
Do you have his phone number, Ryan, to text him?
Yeah, I
mean,
could
I'm
text him.
assuming he's trying to get back on, but
I don't have his cell here.
I can email him really quick.
I'm
See if it's
emailing him
in an
too.
email.
Oh, okay, then I'll let you do it. There he is.
In one of his emails, he has his phone number.
He's back.
Okay.
A fatal blue screen. It took me whatever to recover from that. Maybe it wasn't anything you said, Ryan, and it wasn't anything related to Casey's appointment. So
Paul, we had mentioned Casey threw out the recommendation of just appointing an interim chair for today and then be able to appoint the chair when we have the 5 members here. So Jenna made a motion to appoint Casey as the interim chair for the January 5th meeting, and we would need a second from you for that.
I second that motion.
So then we in a vote to approve Casey as the interim chair for the January 5th Recreation Commission meeting. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Casey, you abstaining?
Am I allowed to vote for myself?
I don't know. You can abstain. You'll still win it. So
Okay.
yeah.
I'll just,
No
I'll
competition.
abstain. Yeah.
I think you're allowed to vote for yourself.
My computer
Um,
seems a little unstable. Hopefully I don't, if I fall out again, it's not my fault.
Okay.
I'll get back. on.
We'd have to, Paul, we'd have to get you back. So I'll email you my cell phone number, or you could call in to the rec commission. Do you have the minutes? I mean, the agenda, it has the phone numbers on it.
I do, yeah.
So
if that
worst case
happens, I'll
scenario, you
call
could
in.
call in and we can have you over the phone on it.
Okay,
And so moving through the agenda here, the next thing would be the approval of the minutes from November 19th. Did everybody get a copy of those?
yes.
And does anybody have any discussion items or need some more time with it? Or do we have a motion put a motion on the floor to approve them?
I just have one question on the letter of support on the Concord Youth Baseball. In the minutes, there was a preliminary letter of support going to be drafted. I don't see that on the agenda. Is that still in progress?
That has been completed.
Okay,
Yeah, so I drew up a copy of it and I ran it by the town manager's office, and then we sent it off to Casey for Casey to kind of go through and approve it as the chair. And she signed off on it as the chair, and we got that over to Little League.
okay,
For
thank
that.
you. Yeah. That's my only question.
Let me know
Ryan,
if you'd want to see copies of
Probably-
that in the future.
makes sense to send a copy in the future to the rest of the commission members so they know it's going
I
out.
think it's helpful because the whole topic of letters of
Yeah.
support came up, and maybe this is a template for any future letters.
Absolutely.
Any other discussion on the minutes? Okay, we would need a motion to accept the minutes.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the meeting minutes from November.
I'll second.
All right, any discussion? No, all those in favor to accept the minutes as presented?
Aye.
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 Okay. Passes across the board there. Are the minutes showing on the screen to you guys, or is it still the
No.
agenda showing?
It's still the agenda.
Okay, I thought I was showing the minutes to you guys this whole time. Sorry about that.
9 months in, and you haven't mastered sharing screen on Zoom yet.
I just realized that I needed to make an adjustment on that. So let's go back to the agenda. And time for public input. Any public input? We're not seeing any. Moving on to appointments. Paul, I know you had sent me a note and I haven't made the adjustment on this to get your end date listed on there, but I will make sure I get that on there. and-
Yeah,
and correct it.
the minutes have it correct. Anna
Okay.
has it on the minutes correct. That's okay.
And then I'm very confident, I didn't see it happen last night, but Pete Funkhauser was supposed to be approved last night. The select board meeting had a meeting scheduled with Stephen Crane this morning for 11 for him to officially come on as our 5th member. And many of you have met Pete from him stepping in and working with us. Pete brings great experience, and he's kind of one of the founding fathers of the Beatty Center. And kind of took the dream and made it come to the reality for the community. And he brings a lot of that expertise and background in there. And Dick, I'm speaking to you on this, as I know that we were talking about really thinking about different creative funding sources. And when we started recruiting for someone to be on the rec commission, I was thinking of Pete along those lines to help us with BD and talk about creative funding sources, and also help us at the hunt end of the business. My predecessor did a lot of scholarship fundraising for kids to go to summer camp, and had really built up a good fund for that to be able to send kids to summer camp. And if we could come up with some creative ways to continue doing some of those things, that would be some of those areas that we can utilize Pete's expertise and background in what he's gone through. So whether it's setting up a foundation for BD or different creative funding ways to look at doing some things at BD, or summer camp scholarships or general scholarships to go to recreation. I think Pete has a lot of that background. And then the other thing he has is just, a lot of the history of where Concord Recreation has gone and where it's been, and can provide a lot of that when we're lapsing in that a little bit in our department, just from the natural turnover, and Anna, Andy, and I all being brand new to the table in the last 4 years. So we're excited to have Pete on board for that. And going back to the agenda. Department update, we did send out program updates this time. I'll have Anna and Andy just touch on them and see if you guys have any questions in a second. We did have, let me touch upon first with the White Pond. We had a public hearing on December 16th. It went very well. We were able to make a lot of adjustments and changes from the first public hearing, and it seemed that many people in the community were responsive to that and liked that we were listening and hearing and seeing and making adjustments to that. We're going to have another public hearing. I just heard today from the deputy town manager that it's going to be either February 2nd or 3rd. And she's going to look to then, as soon as we make that decision in-house, get that out to everybody to kind of come through and wrap up what the project is after having the 2 public hearings, and still have made some adjustments and gone through there. I'll get that out to the commission members to be aware of. And just in my own perspective of it, what seems to be the hot button items is the accessibility to the pond from the upper parking lot, and how to create that accessibility, whether it's a path going all the ways down to not doing a path and asking for a variance. And that just seems to be the hot button topic on the agenda with most people. So, like I said, though, I really felt like the second public hearing went very well with the town through the firm that we contracted with, making a lot of changes after what we had heard from the public in the first public hearing. So I will send an invite out to you guys to let you know when that public hearing is, if you want to attend and see. Jen, it wouldn't be bad for some of the White Pond members that use the facility to know and see it as well. So that perspective's heard. So you could share with a few of the other beach goers when you see that invite come up.
Yes, I will.
Anna, you want to touch upon anything on rec programs?
Sure. Just, in summary of the email that I sent out earlier with the updates, we're coming into a fun, busy time. So we start our ski program tomorrow, our basketball program this weekend, and then in another 2 weeks, we'll start our adult sports again, pickleball and volleyball. So we are underway. We have a couple of new sports programs that will be starting as well for little kids with Skyhawks, a soccer program. So there's lots of good stuff happening. Definitely a busy month. Back to school yesterday, as were all the other kids in Concord. So our staff is back at it, and we're still working to hire staff. So if anybody knows of anybody that's looking for part-time work from about 12 o'clock till 3:30 every day, we do have jobs posted online, including all of our summer camp jobs. So we're starting to hire for camp, planning for another COVID sort of summer. So if anyone's looking for summer employment too, those are all posted online as well. And that's all I have. If you have any questions, though, feel free to ask.
Are the adult
Andy, you want to give sorry, Paul, go ahead.
Are the adult programs fully subscribed, booked up, or is there room in those programs?
Yeah, I think we have one spot left in volleyball. With the youth and amateur sports regulations right now, the max that we're doing in a team or a cohort is 12. Right. So we have 11 adults in volleyball, and then we have pickleball is considered a lower risk sport. So that group, we have a max of 16, and there's 3 different sessions. And those are all completely full with wait lists.
Thank you.
Andy, anything you want to touch upon?
No, just to review a little bit. Yeah, membership very much still in flux. We hope to have it work through as far as the people coming or going some point in February. Give us a sense of where we stand, hopefully in spring. The facility, a work in progress, absolutely, across the board with some different things. As a reminder, we, are celebrating our 15th year anniversary this coming April. So a lot that goes with a building that, is getting a little bit on the older side, but with it seem to be managing well. Good support from facilities as usual. Programs wise, we started winter sessions yesterday, January 4th. So working through that, a lot of good energy on the aquatic side, just the limitations on group exercise based on space limitations and just comfort level. But overall, happy that we're moving forward in 2021 and with it certainly positive and good vibes from our staff right across the board.
Great. The next step for us is the Recreation Administrative Code and Strategic Plan. So I got updates from some of you. I got to figure out how to stop sharing my screen. Oh, here it is. Okay, and then go back to a screen share here. So I sent this out. This is the Recreation Administrative Code that we'd seen previously. This is the document from 1982, and we were talking about refreshing this and going through and putting in some changes. So we did go through and make some adjustments within here. Casey and I had a little conversation this morning to discuss kind of the approach and also knowing how many members we were going to have here today. And I think overall, we're looking at a concept to kind of go through and continue working on this and kind of give some input through this and then be able to come back with all 5 members and our select board liaison at the next meeting, and also provide some outlets for public input at the next meeting in regards to it. So just kind of wanted to go through and work through and see if we felt there was more changes, anything that was confusing to anybody, anything that people wanted to add in. I guess I would just open the floor on that at first, and then I can touch upon a couple of things that stood out to me. But
how did you phrase, you got number 11 at the bottom here. So that was, I think, my comment. There was sort of a placeholder for letters of support, question mark, question mark. I didn't know how we wanted to phrase that, but since that was something we had discussed, it seemed appropriate to be in here. I'm not sure this is the right wording though.
Yeah, so I added in to provide evaluation of an input for public recreation improvements that are applicable to community recreation.
Right.
And I just left you would put the letters of support question mark, like how do we want to identify that and create that charge for moving forward is definitely one of those things that we're tossing around and trying to make determinations on. Ultimately, we are a commission that is, we work in a variety of different ways for the recreation department, for the select board, but ultimately we report to the town manager's office as the commission. So I think my gut would be to say to review and provide input on projects as requested by the town manager's office. And I don't know if you define if you're going to do letters of support or not, because sometimes it might not be support, right?
Do we need to get that specific about letters of support? Does the bullet, just number 11, just saying to provide or provide evaluation of and input for public recreation improvements, is that broad enough in the administrative code, and then the commission can decide how it proceeds? I guess I'm looking for some guidance in terms of administrative code. Is it sort of a broader series of bullets that then, the commission can build upon that, but the administrative code maybe stays a little bit higher up in terms of concept?
I agree with that, Casey. I think that last phrase, we don't have to be specific about letters of support. I think the way that Ryan phrased it here,
Covers it.
it can result in the letters of support. But is the intent on 11, does that evaluation come at the request of the town manager?
Yeah, that's where I just think we've had trouble as a commission is with really deciding when and where we should be providing letters of support, and should we, I guess it would be a question to Kate and to Stephen, but to almost say like, we're a responsive commission to the town manager's office. Do we say that when the town manager's office requests that we evaluate, it's kind of, I don't know, but then that also takes away the small person coming in and saying, I need some support to get the flagpole painted, or some other small community type project, which has been an effective means for this group.
Well, back to the baseball, I forgot his name. He approached you, Ryan, and said, I'd like to come before the commission and talk about this. So is that the appropriate process, or would that start with the town manager and then come?
Well, that one came specific from the town manager's office.
Oh, it did. Okay.
So he approached the town manager's office. Town manager's office said, go to the Recreation Commission and pursue a letter of support.
Okay.
But prior to that, we've had people who just, like, I use the flagpole as an example. I don't know if she was directed from the town manager's office to come and ask for a letter of support.
I feel like the one thing we talked about during the last letter discussion was trying to make sure that requests at least align with our mission. So I wonder if this, again, it's very broad, but for the future us's, in 10, 20 more years, if they look at it, would it be helpful to use the words, that align with the department's mission statement or the town's mission statement or something like that? Or is that even necessary? Just wondering if it's a way to help weed out some requests that we're not 100% sure if we need to be
Involved in. Yeah,
it's a good point, but that almost seems at a higher level on top of all of these issues, right? I mean, none of this would be outside of the mission.
Do we want to, I can ask for input and feedback from town manager's office, but do we want to just leave it without the letters of support or potentially make a sub element of this of letters of support? And this is, I guess, where I'd ask the town manager's office, can be requested or reviewed and potentially requested and reviewed by the commission at the town manager's office request. Should it be to that level, or is it just, we provide like it says, we provide evaluation and input on public recreation improvements as applicable?
I think as we keep it, one of the things is just to be comfortable with what does an administrative code do?
Mm-hmm.
And what's the purpose of it? The purpose is to sort of put forth, like, what is our charge? And then there are things that, we can either build policies around or incorporate into strategic plans as they're appropriate, but we don't have to necessarily get into maybe all the detail in the charge. So we submit an annual report for incorporation in the town annual report, but it doesn't get into the specifics of it per se.
Mhm.
So if we leave the wording to give us enough flexibility in number 11 to just not get specific on letters of support, and then we can get further clarity from the town, from Kate or, the deputy town manager and the town manager in terms of what that process should be, and just sort of say, this is our specific policy when it comes to letters of support. Like Anna said, make sure that they reference back to either our mission, strategic plan, things like that, so that we're comfortable with that as its own thing. But the administrative code, to my understanding, keeps at sort of a high level of what the charge is. Okay. But I do think, Paul, letters of support are are a big piece and they're coming up more often, but to sort of say that falls under number 11, and here's our specific policy that we've ironed out, and we can hold that out separately.
Just a quick comment. I agree with you all to keep the statement general for now, but maybe we can add the word support in there just to, so for example, to provide evaluation of input and support for public recreation input. So it kind of just a little bit.
That's a good idea.
Thanks.
Okay.
Ryan, do you need to do this in red line so people can see changes?
Yeah, this is not my working document, so I'm going to make the changes here and go back and do it. This is on my own home PC. Am I making
Sounds-
sense on that?
Yes, sounds fun.
Yeah, so
Thank you.
I'll take this email to myself and then go back to the document we have at the rec office and make the changes so that they're redlined.
All right. Thank you. Sorry that you have to do it that way. Do you want
Any
to start
other?
at the top maybe and
Yeah,
just sort
okay.
of go through them one by one?
So I changed on the top, the 5 members appointed by the town manager with staggered 3-year terms. Commissioner elects a chair and appoints a member to the CPC Town Committee. Previously, it didn't have the member of the CPC Town Committee, and it had elects a chair and a, I think it said secretary or one of those terms, clerk,
Clerk,
I may
yeah.
have said, which has been done in-house with rec staff for well before my time here. So I think we just scrap that. I don't know if they'll want the CPC listed there or if it's down later. It does say that the town manager's office can ask to appoint individuals to certain committees. So I would need some clarification from the town manager's office on that, but duties and responsibilities, provide policy guidance to the recreation director regarding programs, policies, operations and long-range planning. Speak up if you have any questions or comments on any of them. 2, make recommendations on improving the organization's operations and effectiveness of the division. 3, make recommendations to the town manager on appointments to the position of recreation director. I don't know how involved the rec commission has been before in the past, and the only one who would have been here through it would have been Paul. So we'll have to ask him if there was any input or discussions that went on during that time period.
Were any of
number
them on your
4.
hiring committee?
No, we had him on the hiring committee for Andy. But there was nobody on the panel for my hiring committee from the rec commission.
Okay.
Review
So,
and make
but
recommendations.
just back on that on 3, it's a little ambiguous. It almost reads as if, let's say there's a vacancy that we source for candidates and we make recommendations. I mean, input is one thing, but the recommendation, it's a little bit.
See, I
I
read it
think
a
we-
little bit broader on make recommendations to the town manager. I guess it says on appointments, but I'm thinking along the lines of, it'd be good, and it should be done this way, that if there's a empty position here, recreation director, the town manager comes back to the rec commission and says, what are you looking for? What does the commission want in a recreation director? And get some of the qualities and standards that the commission's looking for, and the town manager can know that when they're going through and making their decisions. I don't think they're necessarily saying like, hey, Ryan Kane's a good baseball coach and I think he'd make a good recreation director. So
Yeah, it may just be okay to read, assist the town manager on appointments and qualifications. Instead of starting with make recommendations, really we're assisting the town manager in the process, right?
My guess is the deputy town manager may.
yeah, I'm gonna say town manager's office because
Right.
that opens it up to both of them. Message, assist town manager's office. What are we saying here? Assist town manager's office with,
recommendations on the appointment. So it's sort of either on the appointment of a recreation director I guess in my view, the other way read fine because that is likely what we would be given in terms of opportunity for input is my guess from the town manager's office.
assist town manager's
What if you-
office.
Yeah, or
On the
like
appointment.
like participate in the appointment, because that could mean just what are you looking for, or sit on the interviews. It's like two different ways of saying the same thing, I think.
I mean, I think assist is pretty general and it can include a lot of things. But Casey, if you want to go back to the original one, then fine too. It just seemed.
No,
a little bit-
I think it's probably 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. And just if they bristle at some language, maybe they'd be fine with recommendations and we'll just keep it at this. It will be in red line. And if there's an issue, it can be easily reverted.
Ryan, just going to the very top, I mean, it seems like it should say something related to this commission is following the established rules and policies from the town, just in regards to what a commission does. So as a general statement, similar to, the basics of, meeting once a month to reporting back minutes and accountability, but not get in specifics, but just the general statement that we recognize that we are a commission that needs to follow the established rules.
Okay.
So some type of preamble, maybe that.
Let me stick on number 3 quick,
Yeah.
just that assist town manager's office on the appointment of the position of recreation director, including recommendations that meet department and community needs.
Nailed it.
Jen,
Sorry,
you-
just a quick question. In the past, has the commission made recommendations for other positions beside the director? Or it's just only the director?
well, we brought in the commission strongly in Andy's appointment. The commission was highly involved in that. So we had 3 commission members sit in 2 different interviews for Andy's position. But it was just kind of based on who our commission was and how involved they were.
Okay, so that was maybe a one-time thing then.
Yeah.
So if you go down to number 3, position of recreation director and other high-level rec staffing like BD and I think with the town visitor center. Did you have commission members?
No, I don't think so. But see, that would be so that you're going to be assisting the town manager's office, and then
Okay, never
later
mind.
on,
Yeah,
we have
that's getting
discussion
into,
about
yeah.
assisting the recreation director in charges and things. That would fall more into that.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah. And it should almost be like to be the assist the recreation director. You're talking about anything that's involved with our operation. So if someone had a skill set that matched up on something else and we wanted to bring them in to assist us on it and they were willing to do it, then they could be asked and brought in on something like that. Andy, you were going back to just saying the commission follows the town of Concord's rules of policies,
Policies and procedures for,
boards and commissions.
Just a quick comment. Do they have a website for that? So, you don't want to go into the details on what that is, but it'd be great if you could just include a link because we're in 2021, not 1983. So just have a link and then someone can click on the policies and procedures link to get the full details.
Anna, can you give a shot at Googling that?
Oh, you don't have to do it now. Well,
Yeah. It's,
Let's go down to number 4 because we're getting,
yeah. Am I back with the screen share?
yes, you're good.
Number 4, review and make recommendations to the annual budget and capital improvement program for the division as submitted by the Recreation Director. Provide support and recommendations to the Recreation Director and ultimately to the town manager. I added in
Yeah.
that last part, provide support and recommendations to the Recreation Director and ultimately the town manager, but
I think that can hold for now. And if
Yeah.
there's, recommendations to change it, then we can address it.
Yep. Review and assist with with updates of the department's strategic plans. Recommend to the assistant / deputy town manager cooperative arrangements with other towns and with private persons or bodies for the provision and operation of recreational facilities and programs. That was
That's a
an
new
older
one.
one in there. Should I keep them all to say the town manager's office?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Was that an old one?
I think so.
Is there an example of that? Just scratching my head.
The school system and working with the school system to utilize facilities would be one within town. Some towns, Anna was in Sudbury just prior to being her getting there where they partnered when you were there, Anna. What was Sudbury's crazy partnership?
Sorry, say that again. I was Googling boards and committee stuff.
Sudbury's partnership with another town's recreation department. Whoa.
Did we have, we didn't have a partnership.
What, the director.
But like Ryan, when we
Oh,
did
she
the
job
school-
shared in Wayland. She
Yeah.
split her job in Wayland. Yeah.
So, so we say that we're gonna, we'll run summer camps for Carlisle and Lincoln, and they'll provide recreational opportunities for Concord residents. Some creative ways like that, Paul, I guess is,
Yeah, yeah. Do you want to start that recommend cooperative arrangements with other town departments, comma, because you don't have, I think this reads everything outside of the town, but certainly what's happened last year with the school department is a great example.
a good one, I guess, is the turf fields. What was that group? CC at Play, right?
CC
Casey,
at Play.
private public partnership. They fundraised to build the turf fields in town.
So wouldn't CC Youth Baseball be the same thing with what they're proposing?
Yep.
Yeah.
With the lights.
Number 7 is just to serve as a liaison with the other governmental units and in matters related to public recreation. Number 8, provide feedback on fees charged for recreation programs and memberships. This originally said that you guys were in charge of developing the fees, which has never happened.
Right.
So, but I've always believed that you guys are a good asset for us we want to hear if people think summer camp is too high. And or if we're not charging enough. That's how it happened a few times that the commission has been like, you're nowhere near charging enough for this type of program. And but we do want to have that feedback out there and for people to be able to voice that to a sounding board in the community and or for you guys just to jump out and provide that to us. I'll change that to town manager's office on that one as well. submit an annual report for incorporation in the annual town report. Casey, you'll be seeing soon enough. I put that together. I send it over to you for you to proofread and slap your signature on it.
Looking forward to it.
With approval of the town manager, appoint special advisory committees to the commission. I think that's worthwhile keeping. To provide evaluation of input and support for public recreation improvements that are applicable to community recreation. That's the one we're talking about with the letters of support, but I feel like we kind of came to that we'd rather keep it broad like that.
Yep.
Number 12, to assist the recreation director with coordination with other departments and committees as needed to further the development and maintenance of recreational facilities. Is there anything we think we're missing?
I think this is good. And once we can see it in red line and have input from especially Paul Grasso, who's got some background in doing these. And then from there, as we sort of discuss a final product, Ryan, we would then agree on it and then send it to the town manager's office for review. Once they've seen it and are okay with it, we could go through a public comment period.
Okay. Okay. I need to stop share for a second. And so that's pretty much it on the administrative code. The next part of that was the rec strategic facilities plan. And I can share the screen with you on that. And Casey and I had discussed a good starting spot for this was the goals that were put in place by the 2014 strategic plan. They created, it's pulled up there. Can you guys see that now?
Yep.
Okay, they created short-term goals, midterm goals, and long-term goals. I thought it'd be good just to kind of go through and see like what one of these goals are accomplished, not accomplished, relevant, not relevant anymore. Have some discussion on some of those elements. I figure it was a good starting spot for us there. Because some of these have been accomplished and can kind of be crossed off the list, and some of these might be further discussion items. So I think just jump into the short-term goals. I'm going to leave the last one to discuss last because I think that's going to be the one that takes the most topic of conversation here, and that's the amount of tax support provided for the department. So I'm going to come back to that one. There were many public input and survey comments relating to the cost of membership for BD. The BD fee should be reviewed to identify if lower prices may increase revenues with additional members joining. To kind of summarize, the commission, which I don't think any of you were on yet, when I first came on board, went through the BD membership fees and the design of that. And we made one major change where we went to the recurring monthly payments, which is kind of the industry standard for gym memberships that, you get charged you hear on the radio all the time, the $29.99 a month or whatever the heck it is. So we went to the monthly recurring payments. We reviewed the fees at that point in time. I think this needs to be, it's kind of almost shouldn't be listed as a short-term goal. There should be almost another subcategory of continuous review and evaluations. Because we're always evaluating our fees and looking at elements that are on there, but it's good to have input and feedback from the commission on a regular basis as to where our fees are, if they're priced appropriately, how it's being presented, how the community discusses it and has a feel about it. So my gut would be almost to create another subcategory of continuous works of progress or continuous evaluations and goals. I know from the survey or from the study they did, the price of BD came back as people saying that it was considered too high of a cost. And when I first started here, they do that annual town survey that goes out to everybody through the mail, and they do a summary. And one of the questions always is BD appropriately priced? And that has come more in our favor every single year since I've been in town. So for the last 4 years, that is reported back to be, I think they say like, is BD reasonably priced, unreasonably priced? It gives like a 5 different measuring stick. Andy, if you remember exactly what it is, jump in. But and in the 4 years, it keeps getting to be more and more favorable that people are seeing that BD is a reasonably priced membership. It's still there's people who think it's unreasonable. There's people who think it's a bargain. But it's starting to fall more on that bell curve for us, and that people think it's reasonably priced.
So
Yeah,
Ryan,
certainly.
go ahead, Andy.
No, certainly an ongoing area for us to look at. We, with this pandemic time period and closure, we certainly have a little bit of a hold on it right now. But, if we get a lot of demand and with it, we're seeing that with our aquatics spaces right now, certainly worth an ongoing look in regards to that goal as far as how we establish things.
So, and I'm a little confused what we're doing here. So this is the old strategic plan. Are we reviewing with the status of these goals, or are you saying that in the revised strategic plan, we need short-term goals, midterm goals, and long-term goals? Because obviously this one was worded based on the survey that was done back then. We're not doing another survey. So I'm a little confused what we're doing right now. Are we just reviewing this plan, or are we?
Yeah, just more or less just giving a status as to if any of these goals have been accomplished or not accomplished, or not even addressed, or if they're relevant. So I feel like it's still a relevant goal but it's been addressed and it's getting better, but it's still a relevant goal to be discussed.
But in the updated strategic plan, that we will need new short-term goals, new midterm goals, no long-term goals.
Yeah.
Is that what you're? Okay.
Yeah.
And it won't be these. It'll be a new set of goals.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
Ryan, is this document, so this is different than the link for the rec strategic plan? Is this something that did you type this up and paraphrase what the goals were on the typed plan?
Copied and pasted right off the document today.
Yeah.
Really? But okay.
But this is like an executive summary basically of it, Ryan. This isn't, because the strategic plan is like pages and pages long, correct?
Correct. But
right.
Yeah.
I just don't see the website stuff that it talks about on the other one, or the program guide.
So was that under the goals?
Yeah. Short term, 2014, 2015. So these are the ones you have are on there, but there's just a couple others. Unless I'm looking at the wrong part of the document for some reason. It's under the strategic recommendations section.
Anna, do you mind dropping the link in the chat so we can click on it?
Ooh, yeah. I'm on my
No, I can do it.
laptop to the right and iPad to the left.
No, that's okay. I can do it.
So I just went to the link that was in the agenda that Ryan sent in the email. And then my computer's freezing.
Anna, what page are you on in the document?
Now my computer froze. It was in the end of the section before the surveys and stuff. Do you see that? And it's strategic recommendations was the heading. You see it? And it has stuff about the website and the program guide. So
It just seems in general, Ryan, that maybe we should think about whether this structure is still appropriate for the revised plan, because what we're talking about here is sort of ongoing operational goals, and there are other ones, and then there are more longer term strategic goals. Where do we see the recreation department facilities growing over time? So, and they're kind of different. Right, they're sort of operational goals year to year, and then they're sort of maybe longer term planning, more visionary goals. I'm just I don't know. I guess I don't want us to be stuck with the format we had before if it doesn't work, and if it does, it's fine.
Yeah. Let me.
Because what we're talking about here, it's BD priced appropriately. That's not a strategic goal.
This is where I pulled it from, Anna, right here. Sorry, Paul.
Okay, so I'm looking at one at the end that has more and other.
So this was the executive summary. So it has more goals later on listed
Got it.
in. Yeah.
To understand my
Paul
point,
brings up a good point, though.
I don't want to belabor it. I mean, clearly, BD has a longer-term strategic goal and it has a short-term operational goal, viability, membership, longer-term. I don't know what those longer-term goals are for 5 years out, and we got to think about those. But I think they're qualitatively different than some of these operational goals.
All right. And I hear you, and I'm not, what I think is probably better suited is for me to go through with Anna and Andy on these and go through these and see where they match with our goals and what we would envision moving forward with as a department, and be able to come through and say, like, here's where we're at in the 2014 strategic plan. This is where the rec administration is saying we would be at moving forward, and here would be our recommendations to be to come back with something like that. Is that what you're saying, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, looking at where do we want the department, the facilities to be 5 years, if it goes that far out, 5 years out,
Yeah.
then work backwards from that. What do we need
Yeah.
to do to accomplish it? So I think strategically, it's probably more important looking out further and then working backwards.
Yeah. So it's it's not a challenge for us, but it's where the challenge comes for Andy and Anna and myself, is we weren't here when this was developed, and
Right.
don't know where some of these were generated from on some of them, and some you can obviously identify with, and they make complete sense on some things. But where I was looking at it was, the community was looking at exploring a public swimming park in the midterm goals. Well, whether it was planned or it was not planned, that box is checked, because White Pond is now in our hands, and that has totally changed the game for that. And that's something that could be pulled off the list and not looked at in the rec strategic plan moving forward. Maybe developing the beach to be more effective for the community might be, but finding the public swimming park no longer relevant. But we can do that in-house, I think. Casey, do you think that sounds a little bit?
Yeah, I think Paul brings up a good point in looking at what are our, operational goals that we want to be continuously improving upon. So that sort of touches on the conversation about BD pricing. And that is something really, I think the department should sit down and list out that makes the most sense, and then for us to review, and then build out this 5-year strategic plan. And maybe it's sort of figuring out what is the best way to do it, because I think just looking at this big strategic plan is hard to do, and you had attempted to pare it down to 1.5 pages to be able to go through each one to sort of see what the status is, what should be added, what should be tweaked. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So
And I think apropos of that, I think a couple of meetings ago, I asked about a survey, and were we intending to do another survey? And the survey that was done back then helped to determine what the town viewed as, what the recreational facilities of the future need to look like. And sort of it was a town guided rather than a department guided. We can do it either way, but this is sort of a public guided plan, right, based on the survey. And do we need that kind of input to do a long range plan at this point? I don't know.
It's traditionally done about every 10 years. Would kind of be the standard for doing that. Doesn't mean it can't happen. I mean, so much has changed since 2014 drastically within the town and within the department.
Exactly.
Again, just whether it's personnel or it is not just personnel within the department. I mean, the school system has had major changes in personnel that have benefited and changed how things are looked at. We own Giroux, we own White's Pond. I'm sure I'm missing we went over to 55 Church Street from 105 Everett. There's multiple components that have changed within that time period. So I think the first take was to kind of say, like, internally, are we able to do it with commission and staff to go through our existing 2014 plan and kind of tweak it and say, all right, we can survive out another 4 years or so until it's time to run, a full-fledged.
Because these cost
community.
a lot of money.
Yeah,
So, and it was done in 2014.
yeah,
So if they're done every 10 years or so, like the appetite may not be there budget wise. Because so it's like 50, back of the napkin number in terms of doing this is it between like 50 and 100 grand?
yeah. It's I think that's you can get them done for 20 to 50 as well. And it depends how much you're going to utilize other resources that are already in play, and can we, use the Envision Concord resources that are already in play, and tell the people that we're going to utilize a lot of those, or are you going out and going full bore and creating it from all your surveys and everything that plays out on there?
So just given the nature of where we are right now in the middle of a pandemic and the budget constraints on the town, the appetite to do that is limited. And, what will be revealed in 6 to 9 months when we're in a different state with, vaccine and whatnot. So given that maybe now isn't the time to invest in that type of big questionnaire and input session and revising, looking at the current pieces that we have to see what can we check off the list that's been addressed, and sort of revise and retool it based on Envision Concord and based on just what this document provides, to just say, here's where we are now, here are some opportunities.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. So this is more of a checkup, and I was not advocating a giant externally driven survey. I do know that, wearing my other hat, Marcia Rasmussen helped orchestrate an online survey of the town, a questionnaire for the NMI site, and it was very low cost. It did not involve any external resources, and we got a lot of useful information. So
That's great.
Maybe checking with Marcia to see. I'll mention that to her, but there's a very low cost way of getting public input without hiring an external force. But I do think that what we're doing here is a checkup on this plan. It's a review of the plan, not necessarily an update of the plan, because I think we would need some public input to do that, albeit, very cost efficient.
I think the plan is always to figure out, better ways to do public input, because it's so important. So Paul, getting more information from Marcia on how she did that would be very valuable. Part of the conversation that Ryan and I had this morning, just sort of spitballing, was, making sure what's the best way to get to solicit public input, whether it's a large or a small project.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll get more information. We can discuss that at the next meeting. I do know that it was a homegrown survey. It went online. We broadcast that to the town that was available for input. We didn't get a tremendous response, but you never do with these. But it was very useful. Very useful.
Great.
I'll come back and chat about that next meeting.
Thanks.
Okay. I think then what we'll do internally is Andy, Anna, and myself go through and touch upon and make updates where we know, and try to redline them and get them out to the commission. Casey, sounds like the best
Yes.
approach.
I think that makes sense. So so essentially what you would be doing, Ryan, is working with Andy and Anna to update your 2-pager, essentially, to make sure it's covering it has the executive summary and the short-term, midterm, and long-term goals, right?
Correct.
And you guys are going to put basically some department feedback ahead of time, so it runs through that filter first and then comes to the commission.
Great.
Okay. Would you like me
Okay.
to make a motion to,
I think you can assign us that without making a motion to,
okay,
as the chair, give us a task
yes,
assignment to,
I support that, that task assignment endeavor.
going back to the agenda. That was number 6. We were discussing administrative code and strategic plan. So we know where we're going with administrative code. We'll try to get the input from the full commission next meeting. And then be able to send something along to the town manager's office and then get public input on that. The strategic plan, internally, in the rec department will follow up with that executive summary and kind of recap that to where we're at. And provide some input on that and provide that back to the commission for the next meeting. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay, then the next item we have on the agenda is just reports from the liaisons. And we do not have select board or CPC, but we are joined by Dick Jamieson from the Finance Committee. There he is. Dick, do you have any updates for us?
Not at the moment. Of
Okay.
course, everyone's interested in, we've got to put together the budget for the next fiscal year. So if you have any unusual expenditures coming up, we'd love to know that. But by and large, I mean, you guys are self-supporting. Well, BD more or less. I guess BD will be dipping into the capital fund for support, but generally we're all groping in the dark a little bit about the budget for next year because of the pandemic and so many things still being shut down.
Great, thank you. I think the one thing on our end that we would be bringing up and discussing at some point would be the general fund transfers that had happened in the past and were waived through this year. So I would anticipate that you would be seeing through either the commission or through my department head, which is Kate, request on that end at some point in time for a review of that. But just as a heads up on your end.
All right, so you would be anticipating no transfers.
That's Ryan Kane's Walgreen world, I think, but it's yeah.
So essentially, and Ryan, correct me if I'm off here, what has been historically a bit of a struggle for recreation is that it is mainly self-funded, and that the town general fund during the the budget process, and with full understanding and respect to the fact that addressing town budgets are tricky on a good day and very demanding and hard on in a pandemic, it's hard to get a sense of a hard number that the general fund that the town's requesting from rec, and it can fluctuate from year to year. So Ryan, in front of us, is this?
This is the history from 2014 to 2021, which actually was zero. So that's why I highlighted that in yellow.
So this is money that that the rec department and or BD has to give to the general fund.
Correct.
And year to year, from what we understand, it doesn't follow a formula, which makes our budgeting process difficult. And it fluctuates to an extent that, if it could essentially involve an FTE.
So who determines this number? Is this Carrie LaFleur? Does she give it to you?
It's this, I mean, we get our budget after the challenge for us always is the general fund does their budget first. And then they come back and then it's time for the enterprise funds to do their budget. And I'm handed a number that's that comes that way. So I think it's a combination of the town administration. So town manager's office, Kerry LaFleur, the whole package. I mean, they put that together and then they'll report it out, and it's broken down more than this. So like, you know, fiscal year 21, it shows $205,000, $292,000 there. We would get a breakdown that says facilities administration, HR, finance, and we would get, you know, finance. Okay, we're transferring $25,000 to the finance department. We're transferring, you know, I'm making the numbers up off the top of my head, 35,000, but the total comes into that amount there. And the challenges have been, it's grown drastically since 2014. And there's been requests since I've got here at 2017 to reduce them. And there hasn't been answers until just recently last year, which was obviously a very different and unique year, to thankfully go through and put those to zeros for the past year.
So you'd be looking for the town to zero out things for the next year as well, you think?
I think just have an understanding of
Yeah.
what, you know, what the town is requesting year to year, and if there is a rhyme or reason, a formula that's being followed. And I think, you know, what I've certainly found in my time on the commission, Dick, is this is hard to follow. Would it be helpful if we broke it down in a memo that you can sort of see on paper and digest a little bit? And this goes up to an important bullet point under the short-term goals with the department's sort of proportion of tax support, but to maybe put it together on paper so it's easier to see and get a sense of the history and what it means basically to the department.
Okay, so they don't bill you separately then for their overhead charges, whether it's accounting services, human resources services, that's all lumped and put into this general fund transfer?
Yeah, so we will, of the 205, like I said, I'm just using this as an example for the Hunt revolving, they would say 25 of that was for finance department use, 35,000 was for HR, 20,000 for the town manager's office, 40,000 for the town facilities office. Where our challenge comes as a department is we're looked at very similar to the other enterprise funds, which are, you know, the light plant, the sewer plant, and the water plant, which are true enterprise funds and really lack competition, for lack of better words, to where their revenues are coming from.
They're monopolies.
Yes. Yeah, I'm glad you said it, not me, but it's you know, BD has to compete in the fair market, and even Concord Recreation Summer Camp, the charge of it is to run good quality, affordable programs for the community, but we still are competing also within the community with other camp offerings that are happening around there. So it's hard when those fees are, as you can see from 2014, this rec strategic plan listed in 2014. How do we bring down the amount, or how do we increase the amount of tax support to the department? And we've gone the exact opposite since that time in 2014.
Is this allocated on a per employee basis? Or I'm trying to understand how it's.
We just
That's
get a
part of
number
our
that says,
problem.
we just get a number that says you'll pay HR X amount of dollars, and it's happened. We've been able to follow through and say, like, we're down employees and we're going up 10 grand on our bill to HR in some years, and et cetera. So it's kind of laid out by how they lay out their department budget, and then
So essentially
receive it
though,
after that.
Ryan, there's no formula or rhyme or reason basically. So if you're charged 20,000 one year for HR, you could be charged 30,000 or 40,000 without a big change in the number of employees or need for the town's HR services. So in some ways it comes across as arbitrary because it's not understood what the formula is for it. Is that correct?
Correct.
Huh.
which makes the budgeting purposes for the department very difficult. And when you've got two categories here, the Hunt revolving fund and the enterprise BD fund. So that's 205 from Hunt revolving and then another 87 from the BD fund.
Correct.
So those are two different funds. And they fund two different things. But if you look at the rec department as a whole, that's that's close to $300,000, which is a big chunk of both of those budgets to account for.
Okay, so maybe I can get some clarification from Carrie on how they calculate the general fund transfer.
And Dick, I can send you over from, I'm sure you have the enterprise fund budget books, but I can send you over the exact pages from them that show the general fund transfers for each of those and break them down. You know, I have the swim and fitness one in front of me for 21. HR was supposed to be, I'm ballparking these, 23,000, facilities 17,000, finance 12,000, accounting 19,000. Treasury was 19,000, accounting 12,000, et cetera. So it's
I'm just surprised that they don't tell you how the allocation is done. You know, on a, you know, is it per employee? Is it per dollar of revenue? I myself don't know. So
yeah, and if you could see on the growth of those from 45,000 to 205,000, and BD's kind of stayed pretty consistent around that static line. It did have a spike up to 100,000 in 2020. But it's
but what's puzzling to me a little bit is that there's definitely an upward sloping curve for rec, but BD bounces around
all over the place. Yep.
Yeah.
So I'll try to give you as much history as I can, Dick, on that. And then I guess our discussion, I guess, is to, you know, who really led the charge for us this last time was Linda, the select board liaison, just went back and was during this and was talking about, you know, recreations having challenges with reaction to COVID and how do we go forward and move forward. But so that is kind of how it happened through these discussions in here, but we didn't know what would be the best approaches to bring up discussion items on that and to provide as much information to you and to Matt as our liaisons as to where we stand would be beneficial, I just think, so that when you go to speak to the rest of the finance committee, you would be able to say, well, in talking to the recreation department and the commission, this is what we're seeing. And to try to get good gauge of that as to if there's flexibility or not flexibility in those areas.
And in your operating budgets today, where, you know, actual versus budget, where do you stand? Do you have something like that? Some like a sheet that tracks the variance?
You're not talking, are you talking on general fund transfers or you're talking on our operation?
No, I was talking about your operations because I know
so we're kind of in a work in progress in that. It's a little bit harder to do so this year than in normal years.
Sure.
Andy's been working with me right now to get me what we're looking at for monthly collection right now at BD, because that's been changing and we're getting to be a little bit more consistent right now. And I'm hoping to lay out soon to both the commission and to the town manager's office where I think we'll finish for fiscal year 21.
Well, I know for January you made at least $153 at BD.
Well, thank you for your membership. I hope
Brian,
you got to use it.
Going back to, I think if we could lay this out in a memo that could go to Dick and go to Matt as liaisons to both the select board and the finance committee. Dick, something that puts the numbers down on paper and puts the explanation out. So you have it as a reference point and can share with other finance committee members or bring up in conversations with Carrie LaFleur. Because I know for myself, it's a little confusing to track, but to have something on paper that details it out.
Yeah, it'd be nice if she would share her secret sauce for the allocation with you guys, but that we'll have to see. There may not be a secret sauce. For all I know, it's let's see, what do we need from rec to plug the budget this year? I don't know. I don't know.
And even if that's the case, I think that the challenge is just being able to forecast some of that and work accordingly, because some of the gaps are so large, like between 2019 and 2020. That's somebody's salary that would potentially have to be cut or
send me the sheet that's on the screen, and then the other detail that you were talking about. It's always helpful for me, if you have a little narrative to have the story behind the numbers. That's always helpful. And I'll talk to Carrie and see if she can come up with anything helpful for you guys.
Yeah. Do you have the budget books for the enterprise funds?
I did at one point. I don't know. I did a big house cleaning at the end of the year, and I don't.
You don't say.
I'll get you at least the links, and then if not, get you over our portion so that you have those saved, because it's a when you include the light plant and water and sewer, it's a lengthy read. But I can get you over.
And typically the finance committee doesn't dwell on the enterprise funds too much, because they are, they're self-supporting, and we tend to focus on the things that are going to cost the taxpayers money. But something like this, if we can, if I can ask some questions and we can clarify things a little bit, that seems to me to be a very reasonable thing to do.
Okay.
That would be great. It would certainly be helpful on this end as well. Thank you. Ryan, Peter Hunter would be solidly unimpressed with me in the length of this meeting.
You told me we were gonna nail it on an hour.
I know it's hard to do that when there's so much content to go through.
I don't think we have anything else for reports for liaisons. Do we have any public input? We don't have anybody else here. Any other public input? We have no old business. The only other thing we would do is set a meeting date for our next meeting. And I'd like to be able to make sure that we can at least have a quorum, and we have 3 of you guys here to be able to nail down when we would want to do that. So this is really our December meeting, because that was postponed. Do you want to stay on the last Tuesday of the month? And that would be Tuesday, January 26th.
Well, shouldn't we check and see if ideally we'd want to get as many members as possible. So if like CPC's meeting, if select board's meeting, if FinCom's meeting, we'd want to avoid those dates. So maybe look at the last week in January and see what day, what evening could work best.
Well, let's start with, can you guys do that last week in January?
Yeah, I could do that. Yes.
Works for me.
Yes.
And then I'll go through and so we'll tentatively set the last week in January there, Casey, and I'll go through and evaluate what's happening with CPC. Dick, you guys are usually on what, Thursday night?
Thursday nights, yes.
Okay, and select board's typically Monday. Those two hold pretty consistent. CPC does Tuesdays. I'll have to check through and see what Paul's gauge is on that and what the schedule's looking at, but they just had theirs tonight too, so we should actually know after tonight. They should have set where they're going with that. So is that the 26th we'll do as a tentative date?
Is that a Tuesday?
Yeah,
Yeah, that should be okay.
Good.
okay. All right, I think that's it, except to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
I second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Paul's 2 hands in. I love it. All right, meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Happy New Year.